Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Sub LBC here doing another video episode of Growing for Freedom. And in this video, I just want to do somewhat of a refresher course in the discipline of nutrient usage and talking about the kind of nutrients that I use specifically in veg, since I obviously do a lot of vegetative growth at this point, having to maintain this fairly large nursery here. And yeah, guys, we have been kind of resurrecting some old products from the past, and I just wanted to spend a little bit of time just sharing with you guys some of my recent experiences with new nutrient combinations, and to talk about kind of where PPMs are at, things to look for, things to test for, and hopefully you guys can learn something new. And I don't mean to do these videos over and over again ad nauseum, but as it stands, we always have new subscribers, new viewers, and it never hurts, to sharpen the blades, as it were. So, talking about vegetative growth, really what it comes down to, guys, is synthetic versus organic. This has been a thing that we've been talking about back and forth. Kind of a not really so much of a heated debate anymore at this point, but we have been doing a lot of testing with different organic combinations and synth. And because we have been doing a lot of troubleshooting in this garden. Again, this environment was not as simple to set up initially as we thought. We thought that we were running into some types of nutrient problems, and we kind of went back and forth on the whole thing. And as it turns out, guys, the synthetic regimens that we've been implementing here have been really making the difference in getting the performance that we want out of our plants. So I did want to discuss that with you guys in this video. But that's not to say that organics do not have their place. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well in the video. So first things first, guys, when it comes down to water, we have kind of stepped up our game in regards to how we deal with water and the type of filtration. You can see here that we've got the classic 55-gallon drums, which we've always had, but one thing that we've done differently is putting the float valves in the lids instead of drilling them directly on the sides of the reservoir. And the main reason for doing this is that these things are not 100% flush, they're not flat. So no matter how hard you twist on that float valve, you're going to have slight leakage. I mean, it's not like anything major. Never been anything major enough for me to really be concerned about. But why have any side leakage at all if you can avoid it? Obviously, by putting the float valves on top, and they do mount in this configuration quite easily. And you can see that we're in the middle of refilling right now. And yeah, works really good. Once the water hits up there, it seals it off just like any other float valve system, and I'm really happy with the way it works. One of the major benefits of doing it this way is you don't have to worry about breaking your damn float valve, because when that thing is like dangling off to the side like that, and you've got hoses coming in and out, it's really easy to make a mistake by breaking it, or by sometimes like having hosing leading up against it and interfering with the function of the float valve, which is really bad, because obviously if that thing cannot close, then this thing will just keep trying to refill itself forever, and so you've got a major flood on your hands, and that's not something you want to deal with. And by having the float valves set up in this position, you don't have to really worry about any interference from hosing, whether it be coming from the watering wand or from the air hoses that you're putting in to keep your reservoirs aerated. And it's also really nice, guys, too, to just put a little bit of pressure, right on here, put that in the off position. You can just detach this really easy, take the lid off, and then work with the res open. And yeah, it's just a great setup. Obviously, we have them all set up here in line, connecting to a 250-gallon per day hydrologic RO system. And I believe this one has a slightly better pre-filter. I think it's like a catalytic or something like that pre-filter that's a little bit better than the standard. And I also did get the the RO membrane flush valve kit, but I have yet to install it at this point. But it's a really good idea that you do. You want to keep that RO membrane kind of flushed. You get better efficiency. But all in all, guys, generally speaking, a 250-gallon per day will get it done, as long as you can house enough water. And you can see that we've got the 2 white lids here that we use generally for our vegetative growth maintenance. And then we've got the 3 black tops here, which are for the 14K flower room, which is right over there, right behind that door, actually. You can actually see all of our 14 ballasts, as well as our massive controller. But that's going to be the subject for another video. But of course, because we have different colored tops of resins does not mean that we have to use them dedicated for that purpose. Because if I do have to water down all 3 rows here fully, if we have fully saturated, fully hungry plants, I don't think that 2 55-gallon drums will get it done. Generally speaking, it's about 1 55-gallon drum per entire row. If we're at capacity or at saturation where we're at right now, at least in the 2-gallon pot size. But yeah, guys, if you've got 250 plus gallons of water on hand, you should have no problem at all whatsoever maintaining a vegetative room of this size, you know, as well as a 14K flower room, you know what I'm saying, with 56 plants or so in it. So yeah, guys, really good to have the RO. Really happy to see that 0 ppm as a start. Obviously going to open up the shelf to allow your nutrients to work more efficiently, and your plants are going to like it a lot more as well. You know, really, really rewarding, and it helps to kind of troubleshoot things. You know, because you don't have to worry about your water quality being an issue, especially, you know, when you're hearing about crazy ass stories, you know, coming out of places like Flint. I don't know what the fuck growers are doing up in that area with the, you know, the amount of poison coming through their water. I hope they got that shit fixed at this point, man, because that's just a sad situation. But anyways, guys, when it comes down to organics, you know, I'm not really into a 100% organic regimen. I never have used regimens like that. You can if you want to. Running the advanced nutrients in guana, you know, and running tons of powders, you know, beneficial funguses, bacteria, all that fun stuff. You know, feel free to go for it if you want to. I really do believe that at this point, the you know, the Pure Blend Pro Grow, as well as the you know, original Pure Blend Compost Tea, and you know, all these products are really best geared for the smaller plants under fluorescent lighting. You know, if you're just worried about burning your plants, you want to make sure they grow well, then you know, the organics are pretty much a safe bet. But when it comes down to just getting incredibly fast growth, especially fast regrowth after cutting recovery, then you're just going to have to move over to a synthetic base, and that's what we're going to talk about here in this segment. So, as far as base nutrients are concerned, we're still going with the classic Heavy 16 Veg A and B, and we are generally topping out at 8 mils per gallon in veg. When we get to bloom and we switch over to the bud A and B, we can get as high as 10 milliliters per gallon depending on the strains or how the plants are looking, but generally speaking, 8 mils per gallon of the veg A and B is going to be more than sufficient to deal with any kind of plants that are kind of like in the, you know, like mature preteen to late teen adult phase. Now, if you are going to be working with plants that are kind of more along the lines of this size or smaller, then you're going to want to scale the synth back to 5 mils per gallon, or, you know, again, implement the the organic vegetative regimen if you're a little bit worried about burning your plants, because this stuff, you know, you can run that at 10 mils per gallon in its current state. You know, it's only a 3-2-4-1 part, so not very strong on the NPK ratios. And then of course the compost here, you know, at a 1.0, 0.5, 1.0, Jesus Christ, you know, this is something you have to use like 20 plus per gallon to get any kind of good feeding from it, at least if you're dealing with mature plants. Now, the 8 mils per gallon, keep in mind that always, guys, at least when I'm using the 55-gallon drums like this, you know, these are 55 gallons, so you are going to get an extra 10% of, you know, pure water buffer, which you always want to have. I don't give a fuck what kind of regimen you're doing, whatever the circumstances may be. You always want to leave yourself a little bit of, you know, wiggle room with your regimen. Otherwise, ppms can spike, and you've got really nowhere to go. You know what I'm saying? Once it gets too hot, then you gotta, you know, mix your reservoir, you know, dump 10% out, displace it with fresh, re-pH. You know, it's a real pain in the ass, and you know, most growers at that point, when they kind of lose, you know, sight of what might actually be in their res, you know, they're more inclined to dump it. And at these prices, guys, you know, you really don't want to do that if you can avoid it. Now, as far as biocatalysts go, the Heavy 16 Heavy Prime is still the go-to product. You know, again, the price, not too friendly. You know, they see here on this price tag, $285.99. Of course, that's the retail price before discounts, but still, even after discounts, this is a very expensive product, definitely to be used sparingly. But luckily, because of its incredible concentration, 1 mil per gallon will generally get it done for all uses. Until you get into like mid to late bloom, then maybe you want to step it up to you know, 2, maybe even 3 mils per gallon. But for vegetative purposes, 1 mil per gallon will get it done. So even at that price tag, this product will go a long way. Still not deviating much from our CalMag supplement. Still going with the Botanicare CalMag Plus. Pretty much the universal go-to product when it comes to, you know, dealing with calcium, magnesium deficiencies that could potentially happen in your plants. And you really got to be aware, guys, that if you are going to be running reverse osmosis water, that this product becomes a requirement. It's not something that you can just use when you want to. You know, if you're running RO, you pretty much have to introduce CalMag at a universal application rate of 5 milliliters per gallon, and that's just across the board. There used to be a documented accelerated formulation where you could double it up to 10 milliliters per gallon, and that was actually, you know, written on the bottle. They don't have that on there anymore, and to be honest, I really haven't used CalMag Plus at 10 milliliters per gallon in quite some time, and that's not to say you can't get away with it. You know, at only a 2:0 NPK ratio, it's not the hottest product in the world, but I think there are some better things you might want to try if you want to get your plants just to turn green as quickly as possible, and we'll get into that a little bit later. As far as the enzymes go, I'm still going with the trusty Hygrozyme. I know that a lot of people like to use Advanced Nutrients Sensizyme. I think it's a little bit more cost effective. There are a ton of different enzyme products out there. At this point, I really could not say decidedly if one is, like, you know, worlds better than the other in any regard. I have really no way to test such a hypothesis. I'm just pretty much using this because that's, like, you know, I think all this company makes. You know what I'm saying? So I would hope that they're really good at it at this point. I certainly have not had any bad results using it, but I don't use it at the recommended application rate of 8 to 10 mils per gallon. I think that's just a bit too much. Generally, when it comes to enzymes, I like to use them universally at about 5 milliliters per gallon. So 250 milliliters on a 55-gallon reservoir of that. Potassium silicates. We are getting back into the swing of using these again. I'm actually using a silica here by a company called Green Magic, which is actually the in-house nutrient line of the Hydro Store that I work with a lot. And you know, I'm there obviously a lot. They've got, you know, really great selection. In fact, you know, I was kind of a little worried coming out here to Michigan, you know, if the Hydro Stores would be up to snuff compared to the you know, the ones out on the West Coast. But you know, aside from just things taking a little bit longer to get here, because the distribution is still obviously mostly on the West Coast, you know, aside from that, they got pretty much everything. And I have been, you know, integrating some of his products into my line simply because I get a really good deal on them. And you know, my attitude really is that a lot of these additives are interchangeable, and I do believe that the potassium silicate, you know, section of things, you know, is pretty much anyone is going to get the job done. You know, it's really just a question of how much concentration you want. You know, if you want to go with yellow bottle, obviously you're going to get a very, very powerful potassium silicate. You're going to want to use it like less than 1 mil per gallon. Rhino Skin is also, you know, a little bit more concentrated than most. I want to get something more diluted, then maybe look at Botanicare's Silica Blast. Maybe look at Green Magic. You know, the recommended application rate for this potassium silicate is anywhere between 1 to 4 milliliters per gallon, depending on the maturity level of the plant. So this one kind of sits, you know, in between as far as potassium silicates go. If you're a little bit worried though about using super high concentrate potassium silicates, then I would definitely recommend using like the Protect, or you know, perhaps the General Hydroponics Armor Psi, or the Botanicare Silica Blast. You know, they all really work well, in my opinion. For vitamin B1 supplements, when it applies to veg, we are still using Super Thrive. Incredible value, you know, with a product like this. You know, they've added a lot more, you know, additives in the form of kelp derivatives and stuff like that, you know, to really make it more than just a, you know, what is it, like vitamin B12 supplement. I think it's like, what is the active ingredient? Actually, I forgot on this one here. Yeah, thiamine hydrochloride, which is pretty much the, I believe is the base for just about all the vitamin B1 supplements, but very, very high concentrate in this case. 1 mil per gallon, universal application rate across the board will get it done. For doing pre-rockable soaking, for you know, immature plants at transplant, mature plants, especially for post-cutting recovery. This is something you definitely want to have in your repertoire. Although, if you are going to be moving over to vitamin B1 supplements in bloom, might want to look at something you know, that may not have, you know, some of the hormonal type stuff that Super Thrive has in it, such as the you know, B52 from Advanced, or something maybe along the lines of Vitamino from Botanicare. Now, another new product that I've been using from Green Magic is the Roots. You know, basically just a you know, kind of a stand-in for the Roots Accelerator product from House and Garden. You know, seems to work fairly well. I've not actually done a side-by-side test, so don't take my word for it. And you know, at this point, I'm just making sure that it actually doesn't operate as a detriment. But perhaps there might be some side-by-side testing with the Green Magic Roots versus the Roots Accelerator but I'm not sure how much will really be learned from it, since the the pricing is fairly similar. Although, like I said earlier, I do get kind of a break on this stuff. So if it does work equal to or better, obviously going to be worth it. But we've got to do some more advanced testing to see if that is definitely the case. Another one, guys, from Green Magic is their Resurrection. This is pretty much a stand-in product for like Advanced Nutrients Revive, or kind of like the Dr. Repair product from Psycho. This is something that has bailed me out in situations in the past when I believed I was running into nutrient deficiency issues. But you got to be a little bit careful, guys. And one thing I wanted to mention is that when you are kind of thinking you're running into a nutrient deficiency issue, or that you're dealing with lockout, which is kind of a phrase I hear being thrown out there a lot, the first thing you're going to want to check right off the bat to determine if you are indeed dealing with lockout is to get some kind of a soil pH probe. And you can get like a cheap one, like one of those $10 ones, with the big metal spikes that you just kind of stab in there and get a reading. Not the most accurate solution in the world, but it should usually be within 0.5 pH points of accuracy. And if your soil pH is like anywhere between 6 to 6.5 for cocoa perlite mixes, maybe a little bit higher for soil, and you're not just making complete idiotic mistakes with your regimen mixes, more than likely you are not dealing with a lockout issue, and you are probably deficient. And if that's the case, you want to be a little bit careful with Resurrection, because there's simply not enough in here to give your plants what they need. So before you jump to the conclusion of lockout, obviously make sure your environment is right. And if you're confident that your environment is correct and your soil pH levels are good, then your plants probably need more food, and that's when you got to work to get them into supercharge mode. And that's when I bust out the Soul Synthetics additives, and these are really, really great, guys. I have talked about these before in the past. This one here on the left is the Aurora Innovations Soul Synthetics Grow N, which is basically like a pure nitrogen supplement derived mostly from calcium nitrate and magnesium nitrate, I believe. So really, really strong stuff. Coming in at 800 on the NPK scale. And for mature plants, you want to get them back on track, get close to about 5 milliliters per gallon with a normal vegetative reg. So like I mentioned, the 8 mils per gallon on the bases, 1 mil on Prime, 5 on the CalMag Plus Hydrozyme, 1 mil on the Super Thrive, and then yeah, guys, maybe about 4 mils per gallon on the Grow N, and you're going to be going places with those plants. And that actually will even leave you a little bit more shelf to run the Amino Aid, which is basically like a very, very nitrogen-rich biocatalyst, and I believe this one here comes in at like 501. So very, very heavy on the nitrogen. You can run that actually at about 10 mils per gallon if you want. Although when I'm combining all these together, I do kind of trim it back to about 5 mils per gallon, especially when being used in conjunction with the Grow N. And unfortunately, because of its price tag at about $50 per liter, and application rates of 5 to 10 mils per gallon, this is really not something you want to use all the time. Only when you really want to get that extra green out of your plants. Same thing goes with the Grow N. You just have to use this once or twice, get the color back, and then kind of revert back to your standard regimen until you need to do another correction. Because honestly, guys, with products as powerful as this, it gets expensive to use them all the time, and if you do, God forbid, make a mistake, you're going to be recovering. It's going to be a long recovery from the burn that you could be possibly dealing with. But again, if you're trying to get the color back, you want your plants to look absolutely lush and beautiful, the Soul Synthetics line is really fantastic, and I really do love it. I actually wish I could get like a really awesome deal from Aurora Innovations, because I have commented on the kind of the lack of pH stability with that product. But with the way things are going now with my gardens, it's like we mix that resin, we use it like instantaneously. Having pH stability, that's really something that affects more, fully automated type gardens, flood and drain hydroponics and stuff of that nature. But if you're just going to be doing hand mixing on the spot, pHing on the spot, and water delivery all in one shot, then yeah, the pH stability isn't really as much as an issue. So, obviously going to be using these products more and more as time goes on, and we'll report on my findings as things move forward. So that is pretty much it for this video update. We're going to be going more and more into detail, guys, talking about AC units, veg. There's so much more to talk about, so definitely stick around. And as always, thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you all next time.